Hi everyone, I'm Eat Smoke Drink and welcome to Eat Smoke Drink. It's nice to see you again. Today I am doing an episode on cigars. So this is cigar basics. When I say cigar basics, my mission with this is not to tell you what you should smoke and what you should enjoy. It's about cigar basics. It's about Maduro versus natural ring gauge. What's the difference with the ring gauges, the different regions of tobacco, the blends, puros and things like that. And it's up to you to decide and try what kind of cigars you like. So first and foremost, the first thing you're going to see with different cigars are the difference between natural and Maduro. So as an example, here's a natural. Look at that color. Very light. And here is a Maduro. So look at that color. Now you have natural Maduro, then you have double Maduro, triple Maduro. So you have cigars like this, which is añejo, but it's essentially a double Maduro. You can see the middle of it. It's all very dark tobaccos. And you have something like this, which is even darker, which is essentially a triple Maduro. They call it just Maduro, but it's essentially a triple Maduro. All of the tobacco in here is very, very oily and very dark while aged. So let's go through the difference between Maduro and natural. Generally, natural, you'll get a spicier, peppery, leathery, hay, slightly earthy experience. With Maduro, you're going to get a much more robust flavor. You'll get coffee, chocolate, much oilier smoke, usually thicker smoke, slight sweetness. That's the Maduro. That's a general profile. Now, you will encounter Maduros and naturals that might not fit that profile, but it doesn't matter. As a general rule, that's a general universal understanding of it. But once again, you're never going to find two cigars really that are just like each other. So once again, it's just like whiskey, trying it out and seeing what you like. Now, you will have yourself different ring gauges, and you're probably asking, oh, you know, I want to start mild and I want to start small with a small cigar with a thin ring gauge, something like this. Now, you compare that versus to something fat like this. You see? Look at that. Look at the difference in size, thickness and length. Now you might think, oh, the small cigar is going to be milder, but actually a lot of cases smaller cigars are designed for a quicker smoke, more intense experience for a short amount of time, and so something as fat as this might actually be more mellow than something as small as this. So once again, try the cigars. Start somewhere that's known to be mild to medium or medium in body and flavor, and then from there start to learn, what did I just try? Where was it from? Was it natural or Maduro? And then and then decide what kind of cigars you want to try from there. So going back to the ring gauge, the ring gauge is not just about smoke length and profile. Ring gauge actually adds complexity to your cigars. So when they're rolling cigars, they have the filler, they have the binder that goes around that, and they have the wrapper. The wrapper is what you see outside the cigar. Some people say that the wrapper is responsible for about 60 to 70% of the flavor. I don't know how they measure that, but they said the wrapper is one of the most determining factor of the flavor of your cigar. But in my experience, I think it's a mixed bag. It's not always going to be the case because the filler makes up so much of it. If you've got bad filler and good wrapper, it's going to be a shit cigar. Okay, so the ring gauge, what it does is that it gives the blender and the manufacturer more room to add flavor into your cigar. So a cigar this thin will have 30 to 40% less tobacco than a cigar this thick and fat, which means that they can add more filler, more binder, an extra strand of leaf that's oilier, and add that extra complexity or flavor profile. Not all tobacco leaves are created equal. So you've got three sections, rough sections of the tobacco. Actually there's four sections of tobacco, but officially there's three. You've got the bottom, middle, and let's say the top. The top is the ligero, and the bottom is usually known for the milder tobacco, the milder leaf, less oil. The middle is somewhere in the middle, and the top leaf is the oiliest, sugar rich, flavor rich, because it's small leaf with maximum flavor. So when you have a Maduro, Usually it's a top leaf that's been fermented over and over again, and the darkness comes from the fermentation. And then let's say they ferment it once, it goes to the next round of fermentation, but some of them don't make the cut because it breaks apart. They use it as a filler. So natural and Maduro, people think that Maduro is always stronger. Actually, that's not the case at all. There is a difference between strength and strength of flavor. Strength is strength of nicotine and the kind of buzz it gives you and the richness of it where your body can tolerate it. And richness in flavor, sometimes your body can't tolerate it and you've got to get used to it, but richness in flavor and complexity is different to strength of nicotine and absorption of nicotine. So Maduro actually generally has less nicotine absorption because it's been fermented so many times, and the fermentation process is what's responsible for getting rid of ammonia within the tobacco, which then give you that strength of nicotine rush. So the more they ferment it, the less ammonia you've got, and the more mellow generally the flavor is, the strength is, but then it does add complexity. I mean, it's like pickling something over and over again, and that's what Maduro process does. And usually they use a top leaf because a top leaf is usually stronger, it's got more sugar, and it's worthwhile fermenting those more than the bottom leaves, because if you ferment something that's already lacking in flavor, you're not going to ferment flavor into it. So starting from somewhere good, like the top leaf, is what you're looking for, and that is why you get something like this, which is extremely dark, and you get something like this, which is extremely light, because the fermentation is completely different. This is probably a few years of fermentation, this is probably a few months or weeks of fermentation. Now let's get to the regions of cigars. When you're having wine, whiskey, regions make a huge difference. Just like cigars, anything that's grown on the ground is going to give you a different flavor profile. For example, the tobacco you have in Cuba, you could grow the same seed in Nicaragua, in Dominican Republic, and it'll taste completely different. Also, every manufacturer has a slightly different and unique way of fermenting and packing and treating and curing their cigars. So when they dry tobacco, they dry it in a shed, and they usually burn plants to smoke it and help heat it. And so the different flora, shall I say, around the area can also make a difference in the flavor that you get in the end of it. Regions. I'm not here to tell you what region's better. My favorite, I'd say Dominican Republic and Cuba. Cuba tend to make, in my opinion, Cuba makes very mild to medium cigars, very smokable, quintessential tobacco flavor, earthy, hay, leather, spice, not pepper, spice, whilst something like a Dominican Republic cigar, which is probably my favorite region, is a lot more robust, strong spice, strong chocolate, coffee, everything is more extenuated. That's just the way they grow it. The soil is completely different. You have wine, the same grape from France, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, you will have extremely different experiences with each wine. Even if the making of the wine is identical, you're going to have a completely different experience because of the terroir, the soil, the ground. And that is really what makes a difference with cigars as well, in a big way, is where it's grown, it's going to show a different characteristic. So someone's going to tell you, oh, Nicaragua is the best, oh, so-and-so is the best. All bullshit. It's what you think is the best. I suggest you try it. Try the main ones first. Try yourself Nicaragua, try yourself some Dominican, and try some Cuban, and then from there go, what did I like and what didn't I like about the certain cigars. If you're smoking just to smoke a cigar, well, then I can't really help you. But if you're smoking and thinking about what you're having, comparing it to the last one you had, and finding out what the reasons were, and that's when you keep watching this channel, because that's what we do. That's what I do, is have a cigar and think about it and tell you why it's unique, why it's different, and what makes it exceptional. You know, the texture of the smoke, the texture of the wrapper. It's just like drinking wine, drinking whiskey, and food. It all tastes different, you know. It's got a different oil, different smoke profile, and different spice and different subtleties and things like that. Now let's head to the price of cigars. You have cigars, and I'm going to talk US dollars here, because in my country they tax it heavily, so you get a skewed version, but I'm going to talk US dollars. So you have cigars that range from 8 to 10 US dollars to 150 to 200 US dollars. So you have the likes of the Behike, Cohiba Behike 52, 54, 56, which each cigar is going to cost you at least 150 US dollars or 100 US dollars, 150 US dollars each without heavy taxation. You'll have the Opus X or the BBMF Opus Xs, which will cost you 30 to 60 each or even 70 each on the very, very top end rarest ones. Or you'll have something like the Drew Estate Undercrown Maduro, or the Drew Estate line, or the Drew Estate Legal line, which in my opinion is probably one of the better values out there, because you're paying between 11 to 15 US dollars each, versus a Behike, which is exceptional, but you're paying $100 US per cigar. Now, price is not everything when it comes to cigars, but obviously depending on how value oriented you are, that's up to you. The price of cigars ranges from rarity to branding. Sometimes I've had expensive cigars and I'm like, it's not really that good, and I'll go back to my $10 cigar and go, wow, that is exceptional. So when you're having cigars, it's up to you to figure out what is actually your Goldilocks zone in terms of pricing, and then finding out which, if you prefer what region and the like. I mean, I think, I always say I've never had a bad Padron, for example. Not that I'm paid by Padron, but I find Padron are the most consistent makers of cigars. They roll them consistently. I've never had a plugged one. But then I do enjoy Cuban Trinidads, which are, I always say the Trinidad cigar line is the Springbank of the cigar world. They're unusual, they taste different to the other cigars in Cuba. They've got a very distinct profile. Now that could be from the fermentation process, I don't know. And so I will always run to a Trinidad if I get a chance. And then, if I'm feeling like having a few whiskeys, then I might have myself a strong Undercrown, which is super oily, super rich. It goes really well with straights, neat spirits, because it can hold its own. If you have a neat spirit, let's say an Isla whiskey, and you have a Trinidad, you will probably not taste a Trinidad. The subtleties of Trinidad will disappear. And likewise, if you have a fruity, light Speyside whiskey, and you have yourself a Arturo Fuente Añejo Shark, then you're not going to taste the whiskey. It's going to taste like water with alcohol in it, because this is so robust and so rich and thick that you're not going to taste much of it. So in this channel, you will get episodes where I match and recommend which whiskies I find to go well with cigars, but it's more the experience of the different types of cigars, what I taste in them, and whether I think, once again, just like the whiskies, do I want to go back to them. So I hope that this episode has given you a few pointers on how to buy cigars and what to look for. Don't let anyone tell you, oh, this is the best, this is the best. Try it yourself and just give it a go and see if you like it. And one more thing before I go: smoking past the band, roughly third, smoking way past the last third. Not all cigars are worth smoking past the last third. Some cigars I can smoke it right to the nub, but most cigars I will discard after it reaches the last quarter. Why, do you ask? If you're trying to scrounge every cent out of your cigar and go cheap on that, you're going to ruin your experience. You've had this experience for the last hour, 2 hours of smoking a fine cigar, and then right in the end you keep pushing it until you taste bitterness and astringency and crap. Then you've just ruined your whole experience. Before it changes to that, you'll know, put your cigar down and throw it away. There's no such thing as a waste of a cigar, except if you waste your experience, right? So if I smoke it halfway and I go, you know what, it's not to my liking anymore, that's a good experience. But if I keep forcing myself to smoke it because I'm like, oh, I paid for this, I've only smoked half, well, you've just wasted your experience. So even though I'm Chinese, I recognize that, being cheap on cigars is not the way to go. Okay, and I can say that because I'm Chinese. Thank you everyone. I appreciate you watching this first cigar episode, and there's more to come on the different types of cigars that I'm going to review, and hopefully some matching ones soon as well with different whiskies. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to comment. Follow me on Instagram so you can see what I eat, smoke and drink, and please subscribe to me if you like watching my episodes, and make sure you click that bell So every time I upload something, it shows up on your device or your laptop, so you know you don't miss out on any episodes. Thank you guys. Now let's get to the regions of cigars. Sorry. I drooled. Now let's get to the regions, sorry.